Hey YouTubers, it's Karl again. Thanks for stopping by. Today's question comes to us from John, and he says, he says, Karl, listen, I've got a question. I feel like my client is stalling me every time I'm in front of them. Help. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by stalling. I think what you're talking about is when the client is telling you, hey, I just want to think about it, if it's a buyer or if it's a seller, something along those lines. So I think that's what you're talking about, John. So let me see what I can do about helping you on that, okay? When it comes to stalling, all right, there's really just a real couple key things you need to remember. We want to keep this as simple as possible. Okay, so the first thing you want to remember is you want to go ahead and cushion what they're saying, all right? So the four-step process here, I think it's 4, maybe 5, is simply to cushion it. That's the first thing, okay? So let's just start. 1, cushion it. Okay? Basically what you're saying is, I understand, I hear you, what you're saying, it makes sense, something along those lines. To show that you understand what they're saying and that it's not a problem, okay? Then the next thing you want to do is go ahead and question it. Okay? Question it. So the first thing you say, I understand completely what you mean, that makes sense. By the way, let me ask you a question. Then the third step, of course, isolate it. Isolate it. So for example, if they're saying that they don't want to list their home with you because they're just going to think about it or they're not sure or whatever, right? So I understand exactly where you're coming from. And so let me ask you, is it, the commission? Well, yes it is. Okay, is that the only thing that prevents us from working together today? Well, yes it is. Now you've isolated it, right? Then of course the next is to handle it using your objection handler, okay? And then of course the last is to close. So for example, a commission objection might be, I'm not so sure I want to list our home right now, we'll get back to you. Okay, great. I understand. It makes sense. Certainly it is a big decision. So let me ask you a question. Is it like, for example, are you unsure about the price? Well, no, I'm not really sure about that. Okay, well, what about, the commission? Oh, the commission's fine. Length of the listing? Oh, that's fine too. Okay, so you're just not sure about the price. Is that correct? Right. So in other words, if there's anything, everything else is fine. It's just if we can come to some sort of agreement on the price, then we would be able to go ahead and do business today. Right. Okay, great. Then we go ahead and we handle the price issue. And then we go ahead and say, great. Do you have any other questions? No. Great. Sign the contract. Okay, so that's the track that you want to use when you're starting to deal with stalling. All right, now here's what you actually say. Okay, there's 3 particular techniques that I like to use. Okay, when I'm faced with a stall, now you know the track of exactly what you're supposed to say. Cushion it, isolate it, question it. Cushion it, question it, isolate it, handle it, and then close. That's the track that you want to use. Okay, now let's go ahead and start going to it. Okay. Let's first define a stall. Okay? A stall is really defined as what a prospect says to hide. What a prospect says to hide the real reason okay, why they do not feel they should make a decision. Okay, so a stall. Really what it is not an objection. An objection is something, like they're saying, well, I have a problem with the commission, or I have a problem with the price that you're asking for the home, or I have a problem with the monthly payments that a buyer might say. I have a problem with the down payment. I have a problem with X, Y, or Z. That's an objection, that they have simply a question in their mind, okay? A stall is different. It's when they're saying, well, we just want to think it over, or we just want to kind of, maybe get back to you, or, well, I'm not so sure, okay? It's what they're saying to you to hide the real reason, okay, why they do not feel they should make a decision. So remember, in the client's mind, okay, they've got a lot of things going on that they're not necessarily going to tell you. And that makes sense. I mean, they don't know you all that well. They're talking about $100,000 worth of stuff here, and now they're dealing with a salesman, and now they don't know exactly which way to go. And so they're going to keep things kind of close to their vest, and they're not going to tell you right away. So a stall exactly is what they're saying that they'll use to hide the real reason why they do not feel. And this is important that you understand why they do not feel why they should make a decision. Now, the whole important thing about feeling here is that you've got to relate to them on a level that they will go ahead and understand and be willing to work with you on that basis. So the first and most important thing that you want to remember, okay, is go ahead and you want to go ahead and make sure that you agree with them, okay? Agree with them. The thing is that if they are a little bit unsure about the price of the new home that they're buying, or they're unsure about the payments, or they're unsure about the commission, or they're unsure about this or that, right? The first thing you need to do is to get on their side. Okay, it's kind of hard to fight when you're on the outside of the building, all right? You got to be on the inside with them and say, you know what? Hey, I understand. It doesn't mean that you have to tacitly agree to every single point. An agreement can simply be something simple as, I understand. You know, I hate the fact that you guys are charging me X amount of commission. Hey, I understand. Okay? Remember the other day we talked about the moneymakers? No problem. Okay? Things like, I understand, no problem, things of that nature will let them know right from the beginning that you're not going to fight with them. Okay, so that's what's important here. Then the next step, there's 3 specific techniques that you can use to go ahead and handle a stall. Okay, and I'm going to go over them with you here, and hopefully they'll be helpful to you. The first one is called the what is it, is it? What is it, is it? Okay? What is it, is it? All right? You know, I can appreciate what you're feeling. You know, you're saying that you're not really wanting to you want to think it over. You know, I can appreciate that. So let me ask you, you know, what is it? Is it the price of the home that we're talking about? Is it the net of the home that we're talking about? Maybe is it the terms, closing costs or whatever? Is it the fees or yeah, something like that, fees? Is it the my company, you know? Or worse, well, is it me? Believe it or not, I had somebody tell me one time it was me. Huh, go figure. Not everybody likes me. Huh, imagine that. But anyway, see, the thing is, you've got to get down to the bottom of what the problem really is, okay? So when you say, well, I understand, you know, it is a big decision, isn't it? So let me ask you, what is it? Is it that you're unsure about the price of the home? Well, no, we're okay with that. Okay. Is it that you're unsure about how much you're going to net? You know, in a buyer's case, you know, how much you've got to come up with? Okay. What is it? Are you unsure or unclear about the terms? You know, maybe doing an own a carryback or something like that. Unsure, or are you okay with the fees? You know, well, you know, we're not really crazy about the 3% the buyer's asking for in closing costs. Aha, okay. Is there anything else? Once you get to whatever it is, okay, that they're unsure about, stop. And then ask them, is there anything else that you're unsure about? Well, no, there isn't. Okay, great. Then go back to the original track. You questioned it, right? I'm sorry, you cushioned it, you questioned it, now you isolated it, handle it, and now close it, okay? So we've cushioned it, we've started to question it using the what is it close, all right? We've isolated that that's the problem. Now we handle the fact that it's the price or the terms, the commission or whatever, and then we go ahead and close, okay? So that's the one way to do it. So this is the way it sounds. It sounds like, what is it? Is it the price? No? Okay. Is it I don't know, is it the net? Well, yes. Okay. So if we can get this done for 117.5, would that be okay with you? Well, yes, it would. Okay, great. Is there anything else that would stop us from doing business today? Well, no, there isn't. Great. Well, then let's go ahead and sign the contract. Okay? Remember that any question that you ask them here, don't answer it. Okay? Let them answer the question. All right? Now, if doing this doesn't work out, okay, technique number 2, all right. Now remember, these techniques work equally well for buyers. So if you're dealing with a buyer who's stalling you about something, this technique will work out great for them too. Okay? So the next technique is the choice of 3. Okay? Choice of 3. Choice of 3 technique, okay, is really simple. It's usually that they are either one of 3 things. Either it's the money, it's the time, or they're not convinced. So let me go into that, okay? So you're talking to the seller, and the seller says, or the buyer, he says, we're just not so sure about things. We need to think about it. Okay, I understand, Makes sense. This is a big decision. You're cushioning it. And you say, with the other sellers I've worked with in the past, usually at this point of the presentation, they're signing the contract. And if they're not, okay, I usually found it's one of 3 reasons. Usually, it'll cause them to hesitate. It's like the money that they're going to make from the sale, or maybe it's the time that it takes to get the money or to close, let's say, for example, for a buyer. Or maybe they're just not convinced in the real estate process yet. Okay? Now, keep in mind, real estate for you and I is a very common thing. We do this all day long. It's your profession. Okay? The average home seller does not sell a home every 5, 6, 7 years or so. That's about it. Okay? If you're doing these courses, you need to be selling at least three homes a month, at least. I mean, that's just like a minimum, okay? So for you, you see this day in and day out, contracts day in and day out. These are things that, they're not familiar with, all right? But when you're talking to them and you say, well, look, usually it's one of 3 things. It's either the money that they're not comfortable with, that they're receiving. They're not comfortable with the time it's going to take to get the money or close. Or they're just not convinced maybe in the process itself that it's actually going to work. So let me ask you, what do you think is probably the most likely of the 3 for you? Write it out. Let them decide, okay? And a lot of times they will go ahead and tell you, all right? Now, when you say this technique, this is the way you do it. You just say, usually, like I told you before, then you write it out. Money, that they're going to receive. Time it's going to take to get the house sold or buy the house, or maybe you got to act. Maybe you're just not convinced with the profit, with the system and the way it works. Okay. Now, in that particular circumstance, that will help isolate what the real reason is. Remember, the stall is what they're saying to you to hide the real reason why they feel they should not make a decision. What you're trying to do is smoke out this reason so you can handle it. So this is number 2, the choice of 3. Okay, now last but not least, okay, it's called the Nancy Reagan close. All right, I like this one. It's kind of a clever one. Okay, the Nancy Reagan close. I like this one because it's super simple. All right, it's just really easy. Okay, and it cuts to the chase of really what's going on. So you've tried the other 2. You've tried, the what is it close. That didn't work. You've tried the one of 3, the choice of 3 close. That didn't work. Okay, and now you're running out of options. Okay, so you can say, well, I understand what you're saying, and maybe you're not feeling comfortable discussing with me what the problem is, and that's understandable. Okay, and I hear you say that you're going to get back in touch with me in the next couple days. Okay, and I appreciate that. But I'll tell you what. You've packed up your things, and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I would rather just have you just say no. That's Nancy Reagan, right? Just say no. I would rather have you tell me right now, face to face, just say no, okay? Because I know if I leave this home now, all right, I'm going to spend the next couple days thinking of all the things I can do to get your home sold, okay? Or, if a buyer, to get this home under contract before somebody else gets it. And instead of going through all that hassle and then having in a couple days, having me thinking about it, and then having a couple days having you tell me no, I would much rather just cut to it right now and have you tell me no now. Okay, that way I can go ahead and move on, we can shake hands and be done with it, and it's okay. So I would much rather have you just say no right now. Now, think about it in this perspective. You're talking about it with the seller or the buyer. It's very, very hard for people to say no to you up front. It really is. Because they don't want to hurt your feelings. That's why they're trying to get rid of you. That's why they're telling you, we'll call you back in a couple days. Because it's a heck of a lot easier to say, well, we listed with somebody else. It's a heck of a lot easier to say, well, we changed our mind. It's a heck of a lot easier to go ahead and do anything other than to reject you face to face. Because in this perspective, look, they've invited you into their home. They've sat down with you for a specific period of time. And now, here they are at the moment of truth. They know it and you know it. The reason why you're here. You're here not to sell dandelions, not to sit here and play games, not to sit here and give them, Girl Scout cookies. You're here to sell or buy a home. And I think, personally, if you spent the time to research the property, you spent the time to show them property, you spent the time to meet with them and talk with them, okay, you're not paid by the hour, all right? You deserve, in my opinion, humble as it is, you deserve a straight answer, okay? And I personally, that's why I like this close, I personally would rather have you tell me no right now, okay? Because you can tell me no all day long. That doesn't bother me, all right? It really doesn't. Because at least I can move on and know that, okay, well, that one's over with. Next, right? But for some agents, it's really hard for us to get down to that sharp question right there. And I would much rather have you just tell me no. Just tell me now. Well, Karl, no, we don't want to. Fair enough. Have a great day, okay? It puts an end to it. That way you don't have to worry about it. You know it's done, okay? Or if you want to add one extra thing to it, you say, you know what, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for having me over to your home. I always try to get better. And so if you don't mind me asking, since it's obvious we're not going to do business today, maybe you could tell me, what was it specifically that I could have done better that could cause us to have worked perhaps? This guy, one time I did this close, he says, well, no, I won't list with you. I said, okay, great. That's fine. I appreciate that. Thank you for being upfront. May I ask, what is it that I can do better to go ahead and maybe do business with someone like yourself next time? And he told me something that I thought was just incredible, okay? At the time, this was, 10, 15 years ago, I was wearing a black semi-turtleneck shirt, right? I had a deer coat, a deer, what do they call it, houndstooth coat or whatever, sport coat, nice slacks, so on and so forth. I thought I looked pretty sporty. I thought I looked pretty nice, right? He says, I hate your outfit. Something as simple as that. I hate your outfit. Okay. Well, needless to say, I never wore that outfit again. And it really wouldn't have mattered in that case because, quite frankly, if you're going to judge me, all right, on my sales ability based on a coat that I'm wearing, okay, well, maybe we probably might not have been a good fit anyway. But that's the just say no close, all right? And then, of course, the last close that you can use, and this is also one of my favorites, okay? It's called the Columbo close. Columbo close. Now, if you've been around a while, okay, if you're probably under 30, you probably don't remember the show, but there was a show called Columbo. It was Peter Falk. He was the detective, and he would go around and search things. He was a gumshoe. He had kind of a, just a gruff appearance. He just kind of, old, grizzled old man look about him, And right before he solved the crime at the very end, what he would do is he would pack up his stuff and he'd be up, headed to the door, and he'd say, you know, just one more thing. Okay? So what you're going to do with the Columbo close is the same thing. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to say, you know what, guys, I appreciate you've gone through, let's say the what is it close. You've gone through the three choices close, one of three things. You've maybe even done the Nancy Reagan, who knows. But at some point now it's a Hail Mary. I mean, you're getting ready to leave, okay? When you're getting ready to leave, I guarantee you they are not going to call you back. It is like 90% of the time they say no, all right? It's a very small percentage of the time. If you don't get that listing right then and there, they're going to list with somebody else because they're not convinced most of the time. So as you're packing up your things, you know what, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're packing up your items on your desk. You put them in your bag. You start to stand up and you start to leave. And as you leave, as you're headed to the door, you got your bag in hand. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I felt though the time that we've spent together tonight has been really beneficial for all of us. You know, I've enjoyed talking to you folks, and you seem to be impressed with what it is I do. So let's pretend that you did say no now. What would be the only reason? Now, think about it this way. How this is different, okay? In the Nancy Reagan close, you're sitting at the table, you're eye to eye, you're very right there with them, okay? Or with the buyer, okay? Either way, these techniques work just fine with buyers too. And in the Nancy Reagan close, it's very direct, it's very in your face, it's right there, you're going to make a decision. I mean, you're going to make them a little uncomfortable. That's just the way it is, okay? But after you've done, their closings and all this and all that, you've done your presentation and so on and so forth, and now you're putting your things away. They are starting to, relax. Okay, well, this is over with. He's headed out the door. He gives them a chance to let their guard down a little bit. You grab your bag, you're starting to walk out the door, and now guys, hey, I really appreciated talking to you. I think our meeting has been very beneficial for all of us, and and it just seems like you've been kind of impressed with what it is I do to sell homes or buy homes. And as I leave, we're not working together, and I'm wondering, if you call me up and you say that you're not going to do business with me, I mean, what would be that reason? You've asked them in this series of questions at least 5 or 6 times to give you a reason why it is that they're not doing business with you. Chances are they've given it up in the first couple closes that you've already tried. Now you've got nothing left. This is the end of your opportunity, okay? This is the end of the bag. You're Columbo, you're grabbing the door, you're walking away. What would be the one reason why? Well, Karl, we're just not crazy about the price. That's when you put the bag down and say, well, you know what? Let's go over that again. And now you have an opportunity to handle that objection. So hopefully, let's go ahead and assume that this has been very beneficial to you. Hopefully, John, this has answered your question. If it's not the stalls that you're talking about, then please go ahead and email me again. I'll be happy to help you. My email again for anybody who has any other questions or topics or stalls or objections or presentation problems that you're having, feel free to go ahead and email me at kkrenzel@gmail.com. That's Krentzel@gmail.com. And once again, from the board members and myself, the Tucson Realty Executives, Tucson Elite, we just want to say thank you for stopping by. If you liked what you saw, you thought it was helpful, then please go ahead and rate, like, and subscribe down at the bottom. That'll help get the word out to all the people who could use it. Feel free to forward this video as well. So thanks a lot. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. Happy selling!